Hello. So, today, January 29th, it has been 3 years since I delivered our little angel baby boy at 4 months. He was, and I wanted to tell my story. I feel like I've mentioned that I am passionate about miscarriage awareness and telling your story and rainbow babies. So I figured it was time to actually sit and tell my story. So for anyone who is mourning a loss of a baby that they don't have with them, maybe they can feel, I don't know, a little bit of camaraderie or know that you're not alone. I'm emotional today, and it's been 3 years, so it does get easier over time, but the anniversary of things always kind of makes you take back and realize. And I look at the stuff from the hospital and I read old things I wrote down that day, and it gets me emotional. So anyway, I had just gone to an appointment the week before. I was 15 weeks and something, and everything looked fine. Like, I have an ultrasound picture of a perfect little baby sitting in my belly, and everything was fine. So I went to fetal photos the next week to have my friend do an ultrasound with me, and I just planned on, I had a big box that said and I planned on dropping it off at like a grocery store and having them fill it with balloons of whatever my friend wrote down, so that I could surprise it with Ty and do the whole gender reveal together. Anyway, so I was in there, and I think it was a good and a bad thing that it was my friend doing the ultrasound. I think the good thing about it was I didn't get instantly stressed out when she told me I needed to go to my doctor. The bad thing was I didn't realize how serious it was. Like, I knew it wasn't great. So I called my mom and I called Ty and had him meet me at my doctor's as soon as they could get there, but I was kind of just in shock, like I didn't know what to do. So anyway, we drive to the hospital. I have Camden with me, and I go back, and everyone's automatically just kind of assuming and apologizing to me, and I wasn't convinced that the baby wasn't there anymore. I just thought my friend couldn't see it on the ultrasound and she didn't have a Doppler to hear it, so I thought everything's fine. And then when I got there, it was like, oh, maybe it's not. So I get back in the ultrasound room, and they take me back, and they just start looking and measuring, and everything looks normal to me, and I'm just sitting there like, what's going on? Like, I see a baby, you know? And then the nurse tells me that there's no heartbeat, so of course I'm brokenhearted. And then Ty got there, and we just kind of sobbed together, like didn't really know what to do. So I was told that my doctor wanted to deliver. Since I was 16 weeks, he had better experience with actually delivering babies that size than doing like a D&C. So we went home that night, and then just kind of were in a daze of like, oh my gosh, what do we do? So we show up to the hospital the next morning, and this is gonna be long, I'm sorry. Hang in there. So we show up at the hospital the next morning, and we weren't really sure what to expect. And I don't know if other people would know this, or but I just kind of assumed I was going to go in, they were just going to force a delivery, and it would be over within a few hours. But they ended up giving me a medication to make me have contractions on my own, and then I would deliver the baby like as it happened. So I didn't come in prepared with a bag or anything, and they said it could take up to like 2 or 3 days, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to be here for that long. Because you walk in on a labor and delivery unit, and you walk in on the room, and there's a baby warmer in the corner and pictures of babies on the wall, and that's all you want is to have your baby and not sit and know that your baby's already gone. You just have a little body inside of you. So we thought whatever, we had the day. Another thing to think about if you have this experience, or if you know someone who is going through it, or is gonna have it at some point, something to remember is they ask you about what you want to do with the body, whether you want to like keep it or bury it or cremate it, or they'll just get rid of it for you. So that's something you have to think about. In the hospital, we decided on a name. We didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, but we had the thought it was a boy. Like, we just Ty always kind of knew. So we had a backup girl name, but we had our backup boy name just in case, whatever it was. So I recommend naming the baby. My baby's Noah, and it helps a lot to say his name and to mourn a name. I had another miscarriage early on, and I think it's harder when you have an early miscarriage because you haven't gotten too connected and haven't seen the baby very much. So I understand just calling that a baby, but I think naming the children that you lost, no matter how early, if it makes you feel better, then do it. And then, yeah, lots of other things. Finally, like, my water broke. It hadn't been that long, actually. I went into labor after about 12 hours. So my water broke, and then the doctor came in and delivered the baby, and then had to get all the afterbirth stuff, and yeah. So one thing that I would recommend if you are able to deliver your baby is to hold that baby. My doctor held him in his hand and pointed him at me, and he was as long as my hand. And I was able to look at him and see him, and I kind of regret not holding him. I don't think it's bad that we didn't, and it was like in the middle of kind of like the chaos, but I should have held him. So that's another recommendation. Don't think you don't want to see him, because I think you will. And then, yeah, that was our day. So because I didn't get an epidural, I was able to go home that night. My doctor let me leave. I didn't want to stay there. So we just went home and went about, like, figured stuff out from home, and it was hard, but we got through it. I feel like celebrating his day, we call it Noah's Day, on this day, on the 29th, the day I delivered him. It helps a lot, and it helps me to think about him, because I do think about him, and I think about like that he should be here, you know. but I know he's our little angel, and that's good. I also have another recommendation. I got a collection ever since I got the one, but of all my family members, but Ty got me a little angel, I don't know if you can see it, a little angel bracelet that I wear every day. It helps to wear something, so if you are going through it, or you know someone who's going through it, like, that really helped. It helps to have friends that are just there for you. They don't really have to know what to say, but just showing that they care and not being scared to talk about it with you helps a lot too. So be that friend for someone. And yeah, I just got super vulnerable and just felt like I needed to share in case anyone was having a hard time and needs to talk about it. But we can go, I'll tell a little bit more about after the day, but I just kind of want to talk about January 29th because that is Noah's Day.